So welcome back to another episode of On the Spot Sports. I'm Jack, and today's episode are joined by a very special guest, current professional hockey player Trey Bruggeman, who is currently playing in the Mountain West Hockey League with the Breckenridge Vipers as of right now. He also spent the last 2 years in the Michigan Independence Hockey League with the Gaylord Snow. And even before that, he was playing the GMHL, the Greater Metro Hockey League for juniors with the Tottenham Steam and the Tilsonburg Hurricanes, as well as having Western States Hockey League and the USP 3HL as experienced in junior hockey. So, Trey, I'm really excited to get you on the show. So, welcome to the show, Trey Bruggeman.
Thank you very much, man. Like I said, this is definitely one of my first times doing this. So it's a little new for me, but I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, of course. But I really want to dig into your background information at first here before we get into your junior hockey career and then your short stint in the ACHA before going into the pros. So you grew up in Ohio. So what was growing up in Ohio like for you and the hockey over there?
Right. So growing up, I was pretty much just like, a normal kid, loved to go outside, play, whatever, do all that kind of stuff. Hockey was pretty mellow. I didn't really ever play anything special like youth hockey wise. It was all just house leagues and dads as coaches and stuff like that. I was able to make the select team in Columbus one year, but being a '97, I was kind of battling out with Jack Roslovic and Cole Sillinger and those guys to make the AAA team. So that unfortunately wasn't able to happen. But yeah, so mostly just youth hockey growing up around Columbus. Moved to California actually to play a little bit of high school hockey my freshman year, and then jumped into juniors.
Yeah, it's what got you into playing the game of hockey? Because how old were you when you first started, and what really brought the love of the game for you?
So the definitely started what started it was dad. He played a lot of deck hockey when I was a kid, like baby, even like still in a car seat and stuff. And he would bring me
Yeah.
out on the bench. I'm just in my car seat. So that's definitely what started it. Mom and dad got me into learn to skate classes, and they actually struggled to find the right program to get me in for like learn to play hockey. So I went through the learn to skate classes like 3 or 4 times just to keep me on the ice. And I'd say that was probably around 6 to 8ish, somewhere on there. Like I think it was like mites, maybe even squirts. So I definitely missed out on a couple years. Got started a little later than most people. Um, but yeah, dad was really the big drive for the love of the game.
Yeah, it's what were some of those youth hockey moments for you, and just some of your moments that stick out to you when growing up, when you think back on those moments?
Right. I know one of the most prominent ones was my first year of hockey ever. I played for the youth Penguins, and we ended up winning the championship that year. And it was the same year that the actual Penguins won their cup. So that was actually something that led me to be a Penguins fan. Then I know another big one was it's like the Thanksgiving tournament. I forget the exact name for it, but it's put on around Columbus and
Yeah.
sponsored by the Blue Jackets. We ended up winning that in high school. Other than that, I really don't have too many like championships or like really memorable moments like that. I think the most memorable moments for me were just hanging out with the boys and being with them, having a good time.
Yeah, so you talked about being a Penguins fan because of the youth Penguins teams. Were you a big fan of Crosby, Malkin, those guys? Who are some of your inspirations?
Absolutely. Well, I play defense, so gotta lean a little bit more towards the defenseman. I'd say Chris Letang and Drew Doughty are two of my favorites. Gotta respect all the forwards and all
Oh
hockey
yeah.
in general. So obviously a fan of Crosby and Malkin and those guys. Back then, we had Chris Kunitz and whoever else. I can't even think of really right now of any other huge names back then, but um, yeah, mostly Letang and Crosby are the two big inspirations for me. Or I'm sorry, Letang and Doughty.
Howdy. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, that's awesome, especially since how good they were throughout that time with them winning the Stanley Cup at that time. You're able to lean on guys like that and really pick up different habits and stuff from those players, and those are two of the best in the league. So it's a
absolutely, even
great
still.
duo.
Yeah, even still, they're still pretty dominant. Obviously, not up at the top anymore, but they're still up top 15-ish. It's top 10 maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. But then you talk about you move on, you go from Columbus to where you moved to California when you play high school for a year there. It's like what was going into California like? I know hockey probably wasn't the biggest at the time because now it's obviously pretty big
Right.
with the Sharks, the Kings, and all the other teams there, the Ducks. Like what was it like? What was it like in high school in California?
So hockey was really weird out there. They had high school aged house league, so there wasn't, because hockey wasn't so big.
Yeah.
They didn't have a ton of actual like high school school teams. So that's what I ended up playing for most of the time I was out there. The original reason we moved out there, actually, I was able to make a single A team, the California Wave. So I played a season with them, and then again, yeah, hockey just wasn't very big, so it was a little hard to get training, and especially to find a group of people that could train with me. Um, but another weird kind of instance that happened was right when I moved there to near LA. The Kings had won the Stanley Cup that year. So again, I think that was kind of just
Something
like
about the teams winning the Stanley Cup when you go there.
yeah, I was like, this is a sign. I got to be a Kings fan too. So we got the Pens in the East and the Kings in the West, but it was really weird, man. It's I don't like being in a hot environment to play hockey. Coming out of the rink and just being hot is not fun to me.
You'd rather prefer the cold times of Michigan and Colorado over there.
Oh yeah, that's how it's supposed to be.
Absolutely, the best times of playing hockey is in the cold for sure.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
then you go on play high school, which then leads you into finding a junior hockey team in the USP 3HL with the Islanders Hockey Club. So take us through that high school season and then going into junior hockey.
Right. Yeah. So high school actually out in California was the first time I had like a real injury in hockey. I tore my labrum in my right shoulder. Actually, we kind of knew like something was up, but we didn't know the extent of it. So I actually kept playing for like 2 years, I think, just with a torn labrum. So finished out my high school career with that, got that fixed up, and then went to the Islanders. Um, the Islanders was it was interesting as well. Uh, Again, a lot of drama with these junior teams sometimes. Just politics, I should say, not drama. A lot of
Yeah.
politics involved. Um, but yeah, just ended up getting recruited from them. Went out and did a tryout. Got invited to stick around for the season. So
Yeah, so then what was that transition going from high school, having that injury, and then coming back to playing after playing with an injury for 2 years, and then just really like what was that adversity like for you, and just overcoming that shoulder injury before going on your first year?
yeah, it was really tough. Not only did I have to have the change in speed of the game from high school to juniors, but then I was also dealing with coming back and having
Yeah,
to be a little bit nervous about having my shoulder and getting hit hard or whatever. And of course, just a big wake up call. My very first game in juniors ever, I actually just got lit up, and just it was my first game playing contact hockey back from shoulder surgery. So I ended up getting taken out for the rest of that weekend. Just having some issues with the shoulder, but um, definitely it was a big change in not only in the game but like a lifestyle too, because you're out living alone usually, not really alone, but not with your own parents.
yeah,
Um, so it was definitely a big change between high school and kind of being on my own a little bit.
yeah. So like, what did you have to learn that first year and going into junior hockey? Like, if you're gonna succeed at that level and then move on to a different league in juniors, and then it panned out to play you playing in the pros eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was I think one of the biggest things I had to learn was that that was my wake up call when I really realized that my natural talent and skill wasn't going to take me to where I wanted to be. That I actually had to work a little bit harder than what I had been.
Yeah,
So I think a big thing for me that first year of juniors was learning to get into the groove of training and the proper training that I should have as well. And then obviously all the adversity of living alone and learning how to deal with some of that adulty stuff on my own, especially not being an adult yet. Um, I think those are the two biggest transitions, the two biggest like learning points.
Yeah, so like what were some of those habits that you had to really dial in, like, like off ice training and all that? Like were also the habits you had to do like inside the rink when or like outside the rink when no one was watching?
Absolutely, yeah. It's definitely tough. I mean, you're a player. You know how grueling training can
Yeah.
be. And so I think really it was tough for me to learn what to be doing, how to properly be utilizing my time. So I think that was the biggest habit I had to form was how to use my practice time or my training time to really get what I wanted out of it.
Yeah, that's a big one, and like especially like the training part, like it is grueling. Like everyone wants to be playing games in season, stuff like that, but like in the off season, you got to make things just fun. Like you got to make the rink going to the rink fun. You got to make training fun, doing whatever like mini games, whatever it is, like 3-on-3 stuff like that. Because like it's could be a long off season, so you definitely want to keep it like fresh every week.
Definitely. Yeah, that's always tough too, is keeping the drive to keep wanting to go. Obviously with being like having a passion for hockey, makes it a little bit easier,
Yeah.
but it still gets tough sometimes mentally.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And then after your time in the USP 3HL, you went on to the Wichita Junior Thunder in the Old Western States Hockey League. So, like, what was that season like for you? And you also were in the Breckenridge Bolts team in the RMJHL as well. So, like, what was that whole year like for you?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the Dub S started. I'm a big physical guy. I love to hit and fight. I think it's a really important part of the game, whether it's to keep things in check or to get your team going when you're down a couple goals to get the energy going. So that was kind of the drive for me to want to go to the Dub S. Ended up finding Wichita and sticking around there for actually only like a month. Just realized that the team and the coaching staff wasn't exactly the right fit for me. I was actually deciding. I think I had decided at the point that I was going to hang up my skates and just call it then, and message the group chat from the Islanders team actually. And one of my really good friends is actually my billet brother. Lived with me at the same house in Massachusetts. Well, lived in New Hampshire, but he messaged me and told me to come out to Colorado. That I would love it there. It would be a great time, and so ended up going out to the RMJHL with the Breckenridge Bolts, and he was 100% right. It was by far the best junior season I've ever had, and the boys, there was nobody that didn't like each other. There was like we had a couple cliques who kind of all hung out with each other, but we still all hung out together as well. Um, and yeah, I think that year was really fun. We did pretty well. There was only 5 teams. I think we ended third-ish, somewhere right there. So that was a good
Yeah.
time. Yeah,
Yeah, so like you're obviously your best junior career, right? Year in juniors, right there. Is like what made that year so successful for you? Like I know you said like the team was great and like the boys were great, but like personally, like what made that year so great for you?
right. I think really the biggest thing again was yeah, just having how close the boys were, and just that we every day we went to war for each other, whether it was at practice or at games or just going out around town doing whatever. Like, we always had each other's back if anything ever happened, and it was fun hockey too. Again, it was one of those years where I didn't really have to deal with too much politics, and that's never fun for anybody to deal with. Um,
Yeah,
and then
and that yeah, go for it. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that the coaching staff as well. They were great.
Yeah.
I'm actually still in contact now that I'm back out in Colorado, close to Breck. I'm still in contact with my coach from juniors, and he let me stay with him a couple nights when I first got into town and stuff. So that just goes to show that how close we were. 6 years later, I can still hit him up and hey, can you do me a favor?
Yeah, that's awesome. Like the hockey world is so small that like you like it's such a small knit and a great community to be a part of that like whether you play against each other, you're on the same team as them, like you guys all get along at the end of the day once you guys get off the ice. Like you go to war on the ice against each other, but off the ice, like it's a total different bond.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's one thing I love about hockey is that it really does all get left on the ice, and that's something we've been taught since we were young. I think that's something that's a lot different in hockey than most other sports.
Yeah, absolutely. And that year you had 122 pims. So like how many times did you end up fighting, or what
Uh,
was that? How did you manage that many pims?
so that one was, yeah, definitely mostly fights. And then the league, we weren't allowed to fight technically. It was like you got a 2 and a 10 or a 10 minute every fight you had. So
Yeah,
that's kind of how the fights added up, or the penalty minutes.
lot of misconducts.
Yeah, I want to say I had like I think 4 fights that year, so really not that many. And then I was still a little bit of a hothead back then, a little more than I am now, and was getting some more stick infractions and stuff like that, so that added into it. But yeah, that was another reason why that year was so good for me, is because it was the start of my fighting in hockey. That was the year that I ever got in my or the year I got in my first fight, and did pretty well in most of the fights that I had. Kind of like showed me that, you know what, I'm kind of good at this and I like it. I like sticking up for the boys and being the one that's there if anybody does anything.
Yeah, that's a big thing to have on your team, is someone that's gonna stick up for the boys no matter what. Like you lay a dirty hit, like need to change the momentum. Like those are where the fighters come out, and
Yeah,
it's good to have that protection.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, but then after that, you moved on to the GMHL, the Greater Metro Hockey League. So, like, what was your first time in Canada like for you?
Being in Canada itself was cool. Honestly, that is one of the years in hockey that I kind of regret. Um, just because like there was more politics and more BS that year than any other year that I've ever had. The GM kind of has this reputation for itself, and I didn't. I decided to ignore it, and it's mostly true, in my opinion. It's some very shady owners and some shady teams and whatever else. But the other side of things was obviously, I got to meet some more really good friends, and so outside of hockey, it was fun. But during hockey, I didn't really enjoy that year. That was one of the years that I was really kind of close to maybe giving up a little bit, but decided to stick it out, luckily.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
so like you played in the USP 3HL, the Western States Hockey League, the RMJHL, and the GMHL. So like, what was each step of the way like? What was the competition like, and like what do you have to learn throughout like jumping to each level?
right. So the USP, is has 3 different tiers. I believe it's 3 or 4.
Yeah, yeah,
So that one obviously is there's a quite a bit of a skill range. I played in Empire USP 3. Um, so I think honestly the skill level was pretty similar through most of the leagues, even in the GMHL, which again has a really bad rap for not being a skilled league. That's not true at all. There's definitely some really skilled hockey players there. I've played with one of the best hockey players I know personally in Tilsonburg. Um, and yeah, so I think I really don't think that the skill adjustment between those leagues was huge, but definitely coming from going even from juniors to college was a little bit different, and then college to pros is way different. So I think it was pretty similar. It's all juniors. It was all about the same tier, same level. So
yeah. And you're
yeah.
all learning from experiences with going from level to level. So like that's good that you're able, and like juniors is just a learning development league because you're just learning developing to get to that next level, which after Tilsonburg, it was college for you for a semester. So like what went into like the decision of going only a semester? Like what was the process to sign to go to or commit to Millsburg University before you went pro?
Right. I think a big drive for me is I wanted to go to school for a little bit longer and try it out. I was never a big school guy in high school, middle school, any of that. Um, but had always been told that college is a little bit different because you're able to pick your classes and pick what you're learning about. And then obviously I wanted the hype of college hockey. I wanted to be
Yeah.
able to say that I played college, and that was really one of the big driving factors. Millersville was kind of a decision that they made almost for me. They again recruited me, and I didn't really have too many options. I had, I think, one other team that had one other school that was showing some interest in me, and they were a private school in it was Maryville University in St. Louis. And it was just too far out of my price range to be able to go there. So again, I think Millersville kind of decided for me a little bit. And then again, just drama and BS and not exactly getting along with the coaching staff. And so I just decided it would probably be better for all of us if I just ended that season. I didn't end up finishing the rest of that season. I went home and finished my year of college at community college, and then started trying to train for pros. And I think that's pretty much when I first went out for a Fed tryout with Columbus. Was the very first team I ever tried out with. So
Yeah, but before you jump into that, like obviously you had a long junior hockey career. It's like, what are some of those favorite memories that stuck out? Because junior hockey is one of a kind, and like you have so many memories and stories from junior hockey.
yeah, absolutely, man. There really are so many. Let me see if I can pick a couple. I know obviously pretty much every bus ride is always a great time. You- As long as there's no animosity between any teammates and the teams get along, or the team gets along, I should say, then yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's always a great time. And we had some really cool coaches that would, like hang out with us. And I know in Colorado, actually, we had a couple buddies who like to freestyle rap a little bit. So we would just be sitting in the back of the bus, like
karaoke session.
of us, yeah, just kind of freestyling all together. And another one, and I know this is gonna sound kind of crazy, but when we were playing in when I was playing for Islanders, we would play against the New Jersey Hitmen, and even though it was them scoring on us, they had the greatest goal song ever, and I'll never forget their like celebrations. And the goal song was "Magic Stick" by Lil Kim, and so it's like talking about yeah. So it was just so great, and they would come like just dancing through the line, and all the guys on the other bench would be jumping up and down, bumping their hands. And again, weird that that's one of my favorite memories is getting scored on by a team, but it was just the energy. It was so great.
Yeah,
Um,
the energy atmosphere, like that's what makes everything like hype, no matter if you're home or away.
right. Yeah, absolutely. And then I'd say another big one that another favorite memory of mine was in Colorado at like the end of the season. I had only actually I had never gone skiing before. So I didn't want to do it through the season and risk myself getting hurt, not being able
Yeah,
to play hockey.
smart.
Hockey meant more to me than going skiing with the boys. So waited till the end of the year, but then at the end of the year, like a big group of us all went out to one of the mountains around here and got to go skiing for the whole day. So that was also like a ton of fun, just being able to kind of get out of hockey with the same boys and do some other things. So
Were you good at it, or did you fail a lot?
no, actually, I think hockey translates pretty well. I think if there's a hockey player that snowboards, you should at least try skiing and see what it's like. It is a lot of fun, and hey, you might as well be a multi-sport athlete. We've been skating our whole lives, so it's pretty much the same, just a little bit longer blades.
Yeah, that is true. I tried skiing what 3 years ago, I think, and I mean I didn't do too bad, but I probably would choose snowboarding over skiing for the next time I do go skiing. But like it's in Illinois, so it really wasn't a big step from where you're skiing, Colorado.
Yeah, exactly. See, and that's another thing is my first time ever skiing was on a 14,000-foot mountain, and
Yeah,
I'm with the boys, and I'm not going to wuss out, so they go all the way to the top, and I went with them. It actually ended pretty well. I think I only fell one time that day, and it was because I tried to hit like this little hippie jump kind of thing. So that was my own
yeah.
fault, but I would have been fine had I not done that.
You wanted to try the fun thing of going up the hill to do a trick. So that's what skiing's about.
Yeah,
Just doing the
exactly.
tricks, the cool tricks.
Yep. Yeah, it's snow, right? It doesn't hurt that bad.
Yeah, not at all. But you talked about the transition from going from juniors to college and then college to pro. So like what was the biggest transition from college to pro that you really like realized?
Definitely the skill level. Again, it was one of those things where I thought I was going to be able to just go out to my first Fed tryout and get offered a spot immediately. Just kind of being a little naive, not really exactly knowing. I had gone to I think one Fed game in the past when in like my juniors career, but around then, And so I mean, even that was several years later that I went to go try out. So things have
Yeah.
changed a lot. And yeah, so even more adversity that I kind of had to deal with was right after my first tryout in Feds, I have Crohn's disease. So ended up having a bowel resection surgery where they took out part of my intestines, and then I had a temporary ileostomy bag. So it was a heartbreaker. I got a call
Yeah.
from Columbus around December asking for me to come out and like play my first pro games with them. And I had to tell them no because I wasn't physically able to. I had an ileostomy bag on me. And then so had to transition from college to pros. And then immediately after that had some health issues and had to get back healthy again. So the start of my pros was rough for sure.
Yeah. Like how when was was going from college to pro and like finally getting healthy, like what throughout that time, like obviously that's a tough time. So like what was that transition going from dealing with what you're dealing with and then playing in your first pro game in the Michigan Independence Hockey League?
Yeah, it was really tough. I went through some pretty dark times actually with the health stuff. Hockey is huge for me, and maybe not even just the boys, especially being around the boys is another big thing for me. Whether I think it's going to be important for a career as well for me to have kind of a brotherhood in my
Yeah.
career. So it was tough for me to not have that for a year and a half to 2 years or so. I wasn't able to play really. So and then going into Michigan was great because I had hockey back and I had the boys back. And again, the first impressions of everything was excellent. So it was great to be back, but really tough and honestly a big struggle to make it through to even get to that point.
Yeah, and then you played 2 years in the middle with the Gaylord Snow, right?
Yeah, so actually, my first year I started, it was 3 years in the mill. The first year I was with they called it the prospect team. It was just kind of a team that they had to fill in some of the schedule because it was a new
Yeah.
league. I actually joined them, the MIHL, the very first year that they were around. So they were still working out some of those kinks. So yeah, I played the first year with the prospect team and kind of filled in with Gaylord if they ever needed any subs. And then from there moved on to have a permanent spot with them. And I want to say even one of those years I had some medical stuff and really wasn't able to play too much, just having some complications with the previous surgery. I think it was just like kind of catching up a little bit.
Yeah.
So again, I missed out a little bit of my first year of Gaylord, but it was a blast, man. Getting kind of the pro experience and getting a good taste of what it could be like.
Yeah, so then you play 3 years in the mill before going to the Mountain West League this year. Is like what did you learn and develop throughout your time in the mill to help you succeed and go on to the Mountain West Hockey League?
Yeah, so I think one of the big things that I learned with the mill was just kind of having to like learning how to deal with adversity more,
Yeah.
and learning how to deal with those politics and just kind of being able to put it to the back of my head and just play hockey instead. I think that's a huge thing going into this year. It seems like this league is pretty similar to the mill, where there's not as many games as I would like there to be. We don't play a game every weekend. We don't have practices every week so far. Um, so it's just kind of that mental toughness. I think is one thing that taught me that I got taught in Gaylord.
Yeah, and it's like just like they're both development leagues to get into like the FPHL, the SPHL, and so forth. So like if you're putting in the time and the work and doing the good things off the ice, like you're gonna develop into that hockey player, especially throughout the reps of the games. And then when you guys have practice and really use practice as like a tool to get better, like you're gonna develop and it's gonna take you far.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Just like you said, just got to be able to be willing to put the work in.
Yeah.
And obviously, and most people can do most things that they want if you're able to do that. So
Yeah.
definitely, definitely took me a few years too long to realize that it was going to take some more work than I needed or than I had been putting in. But we're here now and ready to grind. So
Yeah, you're putting the work in now, so that's all that matters at the end of the day.
Absolutely, yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
See
but
where it can take me.
exactly. But you're in Colorado now with the Breckenridge Vipers in the Mountain West Hockey League. So how has the team been doing so far? How have you been doing in that transition going into the Mountain West Hockey League and just settling in?
Right. So settling in has been a little weird. I'm working at one of the ski resorts out here, so I'm in employee housing, which is pretty much like a dorm. You can kind of see this is like our wall
Yeah.
right here. Just kind of splits the room in half, and it's just some dressers. So it's kind of like being back in college again, which is a little tough. 26 and having a roommate is not the most ideal situation, but I'm out here getting to play hockey, so that's a plus. I don't think the transition hockey wise was very much different from Gaylord to Breckenridge. I think the skill level is pretty similar, different areas of the country, so you kind of get a different style of play for one, and then different demographic, I would say, of players. Um, and then I know I love this area. When I was playing juniors out here, I fell in love with it, and this is where I wanna move eventually. Um, so that part wasn't tough at all. I knew I would enjoy being out here again and being in the mountains. And then the rink too is one of my favorite rinks I've ever played in. So it was great to walk back into that place. And the team's doing okay. I think we're 2-2 right now. We just played Vale over the past weekend. They're a tough team. They're physical. They're good. They're fast. They're smart. Their barn is nuts. It's the most energized barn I've ever played in. Has probably played for the most fans I've ever played for this weekend. So
Wow.
that was really cool. Yeah, but yeah. I mean, again, the skill level is kind of hit or miss. They're good and bad teams, and even on those good and bad teams, there are good and bad players. I'd say again that's pretty similar to the MIHL. So
Yeah, at least you're settling in pretty good, and like you love the area and the team. Like that's the most important part. And any expectations going forward for you personally?
um, I think again, I mean, really, my biggest goal is to break a Fed roster. I think I could be really beneficial to teams, whether it be a physical as in a physical presence or just as a hockey player, just ignoring the whole physical aspect of hockey. But really, expectations wise, I think I'm gonna try to work on the fighting a little bit more, get a couple more of those in this year, and see how that
A couple
goes.
more tilts.
Yeah, absolutely. Got one last weekend that was pretty fun. It was a good time in front of the home crowd too. So they get pretty rowdy around here. We have like a pretty much like a student section. It's just like
Yeah.
all the local ski and snowboard hippie guys that just come in and want to get drunk and have a good time. So they're
Hey,
always fun.
those are the best times.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but before we wrap things up here, do you have any tips for players looking to get to that next level, like advice for younger kids and just to get them to the next level?
Right. I think I would say first is work on the mental toughness because you have to have that not only for hockey but in every aspect of life. Um, and maybe even a little more in not just hockey but sports in general because of having to work hard and or having to work to get what you want and to get to
Yeah.
where you want to be. Taking climbing your way up the lineup or whatever else. And then again, the biggest thing I think for me, my biggest regret, at least in hockey, is not realizing what I needed to do to get to where I wanted to go. Um, like I said, it kind of just took me a little too long to realize that my natural talent and skill wasn't going to take me to where I needed to be. So I would say the biggest thing is just to if you're committed, be committed 100% and do it all the time.
Yeah, it's some great advice and everything, especially like if you're gonna go all in, you have to go all in, especially if you want to get to the levels that you want to get to. Like it's not easy, like it's not a linear path. You're gonna face those obstacles and it's just gonna be a roller coaster ride. But if you stick with it and really put in the work off the ice, on the ice, everything will eventually pan out. May not be right now, but eventually later on in your career it'll work out.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just got to be like we said earlier, just got to be willing to put the work in to get where you want to be. So
Yeah, absolutely. But it's a great spot to wrap things up. So Trey, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate your time, and I wish you the best of luck with Breckenridge going forward for this season. Hopefully see you in the Fed soon.
Yeah, absolutely, buddy. It was good to catch up. I hope you have the best of luck with Watertown, and hopefully we'll see you up in the Fed here soon, buddy.